Are you okay? So often a question I hear as atomized into ether or atmosphere until it bonds in the conversation. It feels like a polarized phrase, bent at an angle my eardrums can never quite measure. Are you okay? An expected question when I tell them that sometimes I feel like a frog. You see, in fables, a frog thrown into bubbling water will leap out, because anything is better than boiling alive. But a frog immersed in warm water sits, grows comfortable, complacent, convinces itself it can take just a few more degrees until the lid clamps shut, until the pot becomes trap, or tomb, or echo chamber for a panicked ribbit. And I'm not sure if the science stands, if it's less reality than rhetoric, more misconception or metaphor or myth, but pain never makes sense anyway. So why bother describing it with something logical? So many times, I found myself steeped in another's anger, or aggression, or so-called joke gone wrong, seeing the skin become a blistered and beaten and boiled thing, this body, all bowed head and buckled knees, witnessed my wrist twist into more tornado and rolled knuckle than muscle, begged and bent at the waist and said amen, and said I meant to say uncle sooner. I asked God if he could hear prayers underwater, only to find myself submerged in silence. Sometimes, the only thing I could hear was, "Are you okay?" The first thing the first friend who hit me said after the first time I doubled over. But you see, he meant it all in good fun. I remember the way laughter bubbled up and out of his chest, and here we were both made breathless. Some people never realize that punchlines like these leave bruises. That after the first, or fifth, or sixth time you jab a jest between ribs that conflates humor with harm, becomes coy charm that masks spite, replete with gaslight, rewrites the history of jokes imprinted into me by bone or bald fist. I guess he was just the first man who thought he could choke my throat and force out a compressed cackle. Like to turn cackle or kick and slapstick as a phrase was routine, or rote, or anything other than reprehensible, and years later, I heard the drunken laughter bubble up and out of a different man's chest. My windpipe is again pinched between thumb and forefinger, locked in someone else's palm, and here we are both made breathless. Years later, I am still teaching myself to sense scald, or sizzle, or steam. Learning how to leap from cauldron to countertop. Realizing that it is harder to say stop than sorry. My mother asks me, "Are you okay?" And my mouth becomes a cavern of dark humor. She tells me that when she was my age, a man tried to choke her too. Couldn't find obedience when it was obfuscated by argument, so he tried to squeeze out all of her defiance until he heard a croaked concession, which is to say, sometimes. The apple does not fall far from the tree, but merely is bruised the same way when it hits the ground. My friends ask me, "Are you okay?" I tell them that I am exhausted, that my blood boiled bitter but has since slipped into simmer. I crave one sweet day when this fades beneath memory or its recollect becomes irrelevant. I tell them today I breathed. And the air was warm in the least suspicious way possible. Today I breathed. I breathed. I breathed. And for once, there was no water in my lungs.